So there's this game. It's called Cyberpunk 2077. I don't know, you might have heard of it, but it is this quest where you go to a funeral for a friend of yours. You show up, you talk to his mom, help her with her preparations, meet his old girlfriend, find something to help him in the great beyond, give a speech, offer it up, and maybe implore the mom to reconsider hating the girlfriend with a single line. There's some pretty good stuff in there, especially with the way the girlfriend and the mom handle the death in different ways, but in the end, you, the video game character, and the person, ride off on your motorcycle and get back to shooting dudes in the big old city. This is a quest you've probably played in a lot of games, more or less. I mean, you know, you're a press F to pay respect kind of deal. And I think it's good to start the video off with this in mind. So 2020 was kind of a bad year for movies. Due in total because it was a bad year for everything. But it wasn't a terrible year for video games. We had some bangers. Doom Eternal was one that slapped as hard as everyone was hoping for. Then we had the first third of Ultra Kill, which slapped even fucking harder. A new Half-Life game came out, and it was incredible. We had Boneworks, we got a new Yakuza game, Ori 2, Hades fucking slaps, Bannerlord, Hylix 2, we had our first taste of Baldur's Gate 3, we got Wasteland 3, Phasmophobia is a lot of fun, fucking Aminal Crossing, but we had some good games this year. But while I was doing the Steam voting thing this year, and when I was mulling over who to give the best visual style to, Dawson mentioned, what about Spiritfarer? And I went, oh yeah, and immediately replaced whatever I had in the Game of the Year category with Spiritfarer. It took exactly 3 seconds for me to go from, oh right, that game, to, that one was the best one. Because, really, it was no contest. So first off, what is Spiritfarer? Well, it's a game I hadn't heard of until this guy in the comments of the video I did about Death Stranding recommended it to me. So I was like, what is Spiritfarer? So I looked at it. Spiritfarer is essentially a Stardew Valley type game. You farm, you fish, you mine, you cook, but one of the big gameplay hooks is that you're on a boat, and you need to sail to islands to get to the materials that you need. And you do this to keep all of the villagers on the boat happy. You are in charge of them. They are guests on your boat, so you're in charge of what they eat and when they eat, and you need to keep up with their needs. They give you requests, etc., etc. But why are they on your boats at all? Because you play as a Charon. You are a ferryman of the afterlife, and it is your job to help all of these people move on by Stardew Valleying them until they're good to go to the afterlife. I mean, if you ain't immediately on board with this game right now, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I took one look at the description of this game and was just like, that sounds rad as hell. Sold. So, like, conceptually, good job. The idea of what this game is a good one. And the execution is also very good. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about the gameplay of this game. The gameplay is pretty much what you would expect of a Stardew Valley-esque game. Yeah, I know, Stardew Valley wasn't the first one to do this by any means, but it is the one that has been really, really popular over the last couple of years, so it makes sense for me to call it that instead of like a Harvest Moon or a Rune Factory. Though more than any of the other games like this that I've played, there is a huge emphasis on making sure that the people are content. Unlike a lot of games like this, you're not striking it out on your own and making friends along the way. Your character is living for her friends, which is a very smart way to approach this game from a gameplay perspective, because ultimately, this game isn't about farming. It's not really a simulation game. It is a story with themes that a simulation-like gameplay style brings front and center to the game. Though all of the farming and production does have little mini-games attached to them, so it isn't just put ore into smelter and wait. You have to do a thing, which is great, because it could have just been put ore in the smelter and wait. And all the mini-games are super simple, but it's clear the devs wanted there to be, like a game here, with gameplay elements, you know, things to do, challenges to overcome, even if the challenges are mostly just getting the timing right. And, you know, there aren't always fail conditions. There sometimes are, like with fishing and smelting, but a lot of times it's more like, okay, you went too fast, now you need to wait for it to cool down. There are also some mini-games that get you ingredients and money. Usually these are tied to a character's trauma. You need to face their fears to get lightning in a bottle or jellyfish or something. Most of these you do through platforming, and there's a Metroidvania-esque way to get more platforming abilities. You get more obols, you get more upgrades. But the name of the game is essentially progression. You do more stuff to get to the next tier of thing and build your stuff bigger and be able to make different things and to meet new people. You know how it is. You want to build your boat from this to this. And that's really the draw of this kind of game. You get that feeling of progression and satisfaction from turning a shit heap into a sprawling, self-sufficient farm. And that's the immediate draw. And one of the things that keeps you going when the game punches you in the face. And where this game differs from other games like it is that it doesn't have in-game items that are the big things you spend hours working towards. The game has an ending, and it kind of needs to. But before we get into all that fluff, let's stick with the crunchy stuff for a little bit more. Let's talk about the music and art. Yeah, it's really fucking good. The art is incredibly detailed in every facet. It's just a lovely game to look at. And the devs seem to understand something that is easy to underestimate. It takes a lot of detail and a lot of thought to replicate the simple things. Throwing a fishing rod off a boat on a quiet sunny day while the waves move past you seems like such a simple pleasure, but it requires multiple pieces to be just right. And I'll be damned if they didn't do a great job in getting those pieces just right. The amount of thought that went into every detail is incredible. The hugs alone! Every character has a unique hug animation, and each was made with such love and care it is hard not to be impressed. They show this off really early when the first person you're given to hug is Gwen, who is surprised, then gives a very gentle, dainty hug. My personal favorite is Astrid, who just is momentarily stunned at the concept, and then just immediately goes as hard as possible with hers. Though, honorable mention to Stanley, who just fucking tackles you. I love this little guy. I cannot explain just how much I love the plethora of hugs to give and receive in this video game. They are so good. Best hugs in a video game? Yes, you want hugs. Oh boy, this is the game for you. The music is also something to write home about. When you have a game that's emotionally resonant and really good music, the music helps kick the emotions up a notch, and Max LL really does that. Without the score, this game would be very good. Without the game, the score would be very good. But they were made for each other. Which, of course, amplifies both parts by making it one whole. Alright, well, I think it's time we stopped pussyfooting around with this stuff. Let's actually talk about the game. This is a game about death. And don't let the warm and fuzzy presentation fool you. When I say this is a game about death, I do not mean this is a game where all of the characters assure you that in the end it's fine they didn't get to see the Eiffel Tower or whatever. This game does not pull punches, in any respect. It does not treat death as glorious, it does not treat it as moving to a better place. It doesn't have all of its characters say that they lived good lives or did everything they wanted to do. Sometimes they will lament that their life never got started. This game is about death, and death is a neutral force that comes when it will, when it's time. And in the end, you need to let them go. Even if that's the last thing that you want to do. That's what everything in this game is built around. You take people on your boat knowing that soon you will need to say goodbye to them. And that's sad. Every single time it is sad. But the ability to make you cry over a character's death isn't the thing that sets this game apart from other games. So, to really articulate what it is about this game that made me not even question that it was the best game I'd played this year, let me set you up a scene. It was one very specific moment that I ran into that was incredibly organic, but it felt very intentional. Okay, so Stanley and Bruce both really like french fries, so I gotta make sure I start growing a lot of potatoes and a lot of sunflowers. Giovanni and Astrid will eat most things and will probably eat french fries, and if they don't, then I can just feed them fish, because fish is the easiest thing I can get on this boat. And Atul will just eat anything. Oh shit, and french fries are really good because I can feed those to Summer too. You know, as something that isn't a salad, because, you know, people can't eat the same thing twice. Summer isn't here anymore. I brought her to the Everdoor a couple of days ago. Well, I mean, at least I won't need to make sure that I have vegan food around anymore. You know, fish and oysters are the easiest thing to get, and so... Because, I mean, that was a little annoying. I mean, you need to keep track of all of this stuff, and that's something that I don't really need to worry about anymore. This is why I brought up the quest in Cyberpunk. Because in that game, you show up to a funeral and are sad for however long the quest takes. And then you just go about your business. In this game, you play as the girlfriend in that quest. You get to spend time experiencing grief organically. There is a literal empty cabin in your boat, and you get the pleasure of sudden reminders that you will never see that character again. And, sure, you could just never go to the Everdoor. But then you'll never progress. You'll never move forward. You'll reach a wall that you won't be able to pass, because to be able to make new friends and better things for yourself, you need to let people go. This game is fantastic at breaking your heart, because it is built from the ground up to do that, to give you grief in a way no other piece of art I have ever experienced really has. It does an exceptional job. And again, it doesn't pull its punches. It makes its characters real people with real struggles and real flaws who make stupid, sometimes dangerous decisions, who aren't always nice to you and aren't always nice to themselves. One reason Stardew Valley is a good comparison to this game is when you spend enough time with the townspeople, you learn that despite the colorful presentation of the game, many of the denizens live very broken, sad lives. And Spiritfarer takes that concept and turns up the heat on both ends. But all of these characters are built to be loved, flaws and all. Because no character in this game is a bad person. They are all just people with issues. They all trust you even if they don't look it. They all show gratitude in their own way, even if it's not as polite as others. These characters have vibrant lives and are vibrant people with their own loves and hates, passions and furies, that you get the pleasure of experiencing with them as you lead them through everything they need to do before you let them go. And the game won't mention their passing. Except for the stars in the sky, it just has them not be there anymore, as you continue to do things that that person would have been part of. All of this, of course, is looking towards your own eventual trip through the Everdoor. Something that your character is avoiding by trying to help everyone else. Needless to say, this isn't going to stop them from needing to go through, but it does give them a reason to not be ready yet. But you never will be. On purpose. There is at least one character you cannot put through the Everdoor. So no matter where you stop, or how much 100% you get on the game, there will still be unfinished business. But once you have done enough, you will go through that door yourself. But, even with as sad and nihilistic as I've made the game sound, it is very soft, very warm, and very cozy. And all of that soft, warm coziness is most of the game. It is found in all of the moments you spend with all of these lovely characters. While you do say goodbye eventually, and while your heart will ache for those you've lost, there is still a lot of joy to be found in the people on your boats. And even sitting on the end of the boat and fishing as you go to explore a new island. Just breathing the game in is nice. It's quiet, and it's homey. The game is in no way saying, there is no meaning to any of this because eventually it'll all be over, and the end will leave much to be desired, but there is meaning. in every small thing that happened before it. And none of this would work as well as it does if it wasn't as nice as it is. If right before every single time you sent a character off, you didn't give them one last lovingly rendered, incredibly personal hug. Thunder Lotus Games has made something exceptionally unique. Something that is easily the best game I played this year, because I've never seen anything get this incredibly complex feeling across so blindingly effortlessly. It just sits you down and has you experience grief by doing something as simple as having you give something away. But there's been a thought that's been sort of rattling around in my brain, because there was a point in the script where I thought I would call what the game did transcendent. Now, no doubt other reviewers will probably use this, and people have used this to describe similarly bold pieces of art, but it made me think about this description and think, no, this game is not transcendent, it doesn't transcend anything. And I don't mean to say that it should not be held in such high regard. I feel the opposite. That to say this is transcendent is to assume that what it is more than it should be. And what it is a video game. And this is just what video games can be. This is exactly what I was talking about in my video about Death Stranding, and that's why it was recommended to me in the comments about that, because the person watched that video and was like, hey, this is the thing that you're talking about. This is what video games can be. They can be experiences that make you think about your own life, your own losses, and make you feel these things in ways that other art forms wouldn't be able to. And it only feels transcendent because we've only ever scratched the surface of what this medium is capable of. But goddamn, this game is a good preview. And often the medium doesn't reach these heights. I get that, but it clearly can. And with a little perseverance, and not treating your workers like shit, we can get games that really, really mean something. And those games are the ones that make the entire art form worth loving. Thanks for watching this incredibly on-brand video for Graveyard Media. If you want more videos about death, you can subscribe and leave a comment. We also got a bunch of links in the description, one of which is to our Patreon, where if you want to get on this end title card, you can subscribe to it. But anyway, have a nice day and try to enjoy the rest of your life.